Hi everyone, I'm your host Neha and you're tuned into Durian Dreaming, the show that brings you extraordinary stories from seemingly ordinary experiences in Indonesia's fast-paced market. Let's dive into today's conversation with another inspiring guest. Today's guest is someone who's worn many hats across the globe and somehow managed to make each one look cooler than the last. Say hello to Sawan Malik. Sawan's journey has been anything but ordinary, from starting his career with Procter & Gamble in India. He's literally lived the global corporate dream. He's worked in 7 countries. Yup, that's right, 7 different countries, navigating the wild world of FMCG and tech. His career path has taken him from selling shampoos in India to driving global channel strategies for Nokia in Finland. So whether he's geeking out over cricket or navigating complex market dynamics, there's always this thoughtful human approach he brings to the table. Sawan's got stories for days. So buckle up, because today we are diving into the highs, the challenges, and the downright funny moments of running a global business in Indonesia as an expat. So let's dive in. Hi, Sawan. We are very excited to have you on a podcast.
Thanks, Neha. And I'm also glad to be here.
So, Sawan, let's start from the beginning. What was your first reaction when you found out that you were moving to Indonesia to head J&J? And this was also your first CEO role. So were you excited, nervous, or totally overwhelmed?
I think it was a little bit all of the above. But it was, for me, it was the first CEO role. And it was a role which was encompassing, one J&J as then J&J was organized, which is consumer health, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and vision care, all being led by, one team and one managing director. So for me, it was 3 new businesses. So I'd always done the consumer side, for a long while, but I'd never had experiences of pharmaceutical, medical devices, and vision care. So, that was really exciting. So from a, first CEO role, different industry, reasonably important for the overall company. So I was really looking forward to it. So I was looking forward to the country. I'd heard about it a lot. And as they say about Indonesia, that, there are 2 times you cry. The first is, when you come to the country, hey, where have I come? What is this? Too much traffic, too much this, that.
Yeah.
And the second time you cry is when you leave the country is, why am I leaving? Because it's such a great place. And, what a wonderful place. And I've had such a great time. So I think the first part was certainly true. When you land here, you certainly feel like that. Let's see when I finally leave. And I think the second part also probably, come true. So that was what it was. Very exciting, great role, my first CEO role. And I think the journey has been fantastic.
And then what was the biggest cultural surprise or adjustment for you when you moved here?
I think more from a cultural standpoint, people are generally quite, satisfied here. They are satisfied with life. They're satisfied with what the government is giving them. They're satisfied with customer service. They don't demand too much. And, they're happy with life. It's a very happy country. And that's very different from what we have been used to in, the various countries that I stayed in, India, China, even Europe, very competitive, go first and try to get what you can. Whereas here it's more laid back, people, happy country, happy people. They are a little bit more satisfied with life. And it's a strange, it's a very different, strange feeling, and you got to get used to that. So I think, that was, that was a difference in terms of how other countries or other people generally are. So from that standpoint, the country is quite different culturally.
So J&J was the first CEO role, and Indonesia is known for being a relationship-first business culture.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that as a foreigner stepping into such a huge role?
I think most Asian countries are anyhow, relationships first, right? So maybe it's too generic, but the Western economies are more like, okay, when I get the business, then I will talk about your wife, your children, your parents, and what is going on in your life. In Asian countries, it's exactly the opposite. We'll first talk about who you are, what you've been doing, how's your family, this, that, and then we go to business. So that's true, I think, with how we've grown up any which way. We don't just straight away dive into the business, and we want to understand a person before. We find it maybe a little bit difficult, rude, whatever, if you go straight into things. So I think that's very natural. And that's how, for me, that was not a difficulty. And that's the natural way of doing things.
Okay, because Western companies are often accused of not adapting to the local styles of working, or let's just say local leadership style. So have you had to rethink the way you lead here?
I'm only speaking on my own behalf here. But it could be people from the Western world are not able to adapt in the beginning, but not Western company in general. So in Western companies, there are enough Asians also who are there, right? So when they will come in, I don't think it'll be difficult for them. But yeah, if you've always worked in the Western world, you are from there, then maybe you might need a little bit of grounding in the culture. You might need to just step back a little bit and build a little bit of relationship before you straight away get into the business. So I think that would be, so I wouldn't say Western company, I would say more from a Western people standpoint that that thing needs to be taken care of.
Okay, then what's one habit or mindset that you brought from the West that you had to completely unlearn to succeed here?
You just need to adapt in the sense of, you need to be more patient.
Okay.
And you need to be a little bit more slower. Yeah. You have to, ask clarifying questions a lot more. And, have people really understood what is being, what is being talked about. You have to ask people to, contribute more in meetings, etc. And I think all this is great. And you have to be a bit more detailed than maybe, let's say a Western, or any other country where at the top line itself, people will understand and, they will understand what are the various steps under it. Whereas here you might need to detail a little bit of the steps a little bit more. And I think that's more language related. So, I'm not a natural speaker of Indonesian, right? So I don't know when an Indonesian leader is speaking to the Indonesian team, then how does the dynamics play? But from an expat standpoint, I think we have to be really a little bit more patient, a little bit more slower. Those are things which you have to unlearn in a way or, whatever, deploy here. Ask a lot of clarifying questions. People will generally speak a lot in meetings outside here. It will not be like that. So you have to get those thoughts out. You have to make sure that you're going one by one and, asking people to, share their thoughts. So I think those are some of the things which maybe you have to relearn, unlearn.
Yeah.
I think that part is a little bit in terms of, for me at least, that was one of the things which I had to unlearn. I'm generally a fast speaker. I will, assume things will get done or, understanding will be there. But here you have to just peel the layer a little bit more.
So there's a stereotype that multinational companies in Indonesia focus more on Jakarta and Java and ignore the rest of the country. What's your take on it?
See, the big business are, the most of the categories here. I think 67% of the overall business does come from Java alone. Then you have Sumatra as an island. But the growth is, of course, in the outer islands, Kalimantan, Sulampua. Those are places where the growth is obviously, a lot more there. And the government is also doing a lot of initiatives in terms of, taking the capital itself there, trying to grow those areas.
Yeah.
So I think it's a balance. You obviously have to take care of the biggest places. And you have to also figure out from a category standpoint what works. So if you are, in a premium beauty category, then maybe it makes a lot more sense to focus on, where the business is, where the premium customers are, where there is a little bit more, purchasing power, which will be in Java, Sumatra. But if your categories are, low value, you have low unit packs, etc., there you can go across and, make sure to sell everywhere. The other thing which has helped actually is e-commerce. E-commerce has helped to make sure that all the product, it doesn't really, people from various places are buying product from, let's say, a store in Jakarta or an e-commerce player in Jakarta. And when we analyze, some of the data which, we see that it could be someone from Kalimantan, someone from, Sulawesi who's buying, who might not have got access earlier, but now because they have access through e-com, our products are able to reach there. So I think because of e-com, a lot of that reach has been enabled. And it's really surprising when you see that, okay, there is business there. It still might not be enough to have, a full presence there in terms of, opening an office, opening a warehouse, etc., etc. But there is the green shoots of of business startup there.
Okay, but Indonesia's middle class is booming, but I think affordability is still a big factor. So how do you balance bringing premium products into a market that's still very price sensitive?
See, I think there are two things here, right? One is premiumization because the category is premiumizing.
Yeah.
And one of the examples is, let's say, in my previous life, you have Johnson's Baby soap, the bar soap getting converted. The category shifting to liquid soap, especially in the bigger cities and the premium markets, and that is a rapid shift. Yeah, so people using bar soap to people using liquid soap, and when you're doing that, it's automatically premiumizing, right? So the per bath, if such a metric is there, use of soap versus use of liquid soap, you're getting a lot more. So that part, so one premiumization is happening via some of the categories which are there. But to answer the second part of your question, even when the category is premiumizing, you have to make sure that you are playing in giving the right value. So if you're too high, so the category of liquid bath is premiumizing, but if you're priced too high there, there'll be many other competitors take your cake there.
Yeah.
You have to still make sure that so you have to ride the category trend in terms of, okay, which categories are truly premiumizing, and then what's the momentum there, and how do we join that? So that's, I think, one of the ways by which, over a period of time, getting to the premium part. Two, it still is a market which is, I think the premium segment overall is very small. I think the per capita is $4,500. I think premium categories really take off when the per capita incomes, in emerging markets come up to $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. And I think another 4-5 years, the country will be very different. So the population is there, but the ability to buy is still not there, and therefore affordability becomes key.
Recently Indonesian companies like Wings and Miura have been gaining shares across many categories. And this has led to a belief that Western giants like Unilever, P&G, and others are not really in touch with Indonesian consumers. What do you think about it?
Okay, so I will talk about my experience and not, as a change as a company. Yeah? So I'm only talking about my experience here. So, I think, and I'll talk in terms of all, probably as a generalization of all MNC. I think we are in touch. Yeah, most MNC companies will be in touch with what's going on. There is good consumer research. We know what are the consumer trends, etc. Where we need to be. What are the products we need to launch? For example, in the baby care category, we know that let's say there is this warming oil which people use, which is half the category or close by. I'm just giving approximate numbers just to keep things confidential. So, and if half the category is warming oil, then you should be present in it. But there could be reasons why we know that. But the reasons why it feels to the outside world that people might not be in touch is because why are we not doing anything about it, or why are the various companies not doing anything about it? But that could be various reasons, right? One could be Indonesia might not be a strategic priority market for that company. Two, ingredients being used in that might have been rejected by the medical board of a multinational company, whereas a local company will say it doesn't matter, let me do it. Now, again, this is my, as I keep saying, this is my hypothesis of the situation, not what is the actual thing. So there could be, it could be just a matter of the global company optimizing at a global regional level, whereas a local company optimizes for the country itself, right? For them, it's only the country. For a global company, they have to see, hey, do I invest in India, China, or do I invest in Indonesia, considering the various things? So I might not invest this category in Indonesia because I think it's, not really giving me a lot of, value. I will invest in some other category. But in India, I will invest in this. In China, I'll invest. So that global optimization, regional optimization keeps happening in, larger multinational corporations for which, local companies don't have to bother about that.
Indonesia is one of the biggest economies of Southeast Asia. Do you think it's imperative, or how important it is for global companies when they enter Indonesia to make them their priority and put localization at heart?
Yeah, of course. So see, from a population standpoint, obviously, as I said before, it's a huge country, 270 million population. But I think from a category value, it is still not there. And it'll take time. It'll take a few years for it from a per capita consumption to go higher. And it is somewhere in the middle right now, right? So either it should be already a developed economy where the category values are very high, or it should be those, 2 or 3 big population where, companies really doesn't matter if the per capita income is lower, but we will still want to invest because we can't be out of India, we can't be out of China. So I think in a matter of, it's where Indonesia is right now somewhere in the middle, neither the highest population nor the highest, category value. And maybe that is what it is. And just when the companies start really prioritizing, and over the last, maybe the decade, that prioritization has been very ruthless. Yeah, because I think resources are less, earnings pressure, growth pressure. So when that is happening, people are just being focused on maybe the top 2 or 3 only. But if they're focused on the top 5, then Indonesia will come. But if they're focused on the top 2, then Indonesia doesn't come.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's just that versus anything else. And maybe another 4 or 5 years, I think by 2027, 2028, the per capita income is going to reach here at $5,500-6,000. And that's when the categories start playing up and premiumization is better. Consumers are looking at higher quality products. They don't mind spending a little bit more. And if you're not here, you'll miss out. So I think that's the part which companies have to think about, that it might be rough weather for a couple of years, but eventually there is gold here, but it will take time. Just like India, in 2015 versus India now is very different.
So while Indonesia may not yet be a top priority for every global company, it's clearly a market with a long-term potential. What then would you say is the biggest challenge when it comes to navigating Indonesia's regulatory environment as an MNC?
I think regulations, and I think it's true with, not just Indonesia, with most emerging markets, they change the regulations very fast. When the regulations get implemented, it's not always all buttoned up, so they will learn as they go along. So I think those, so you would wonder, okay, it's getting implemented on 31st of January, but till 20th of January, you have nothing to know how it is going to be done, and suddenly you get it. And then when you do it, also there are a lot of challenges there, or a lot of understanding which is not fully complete. So you go back and forth, and then it'll be postponed for another 2-3 months. So there is lack of clarity in that, right? And I think that's true in most of the emerging markets and not just Indonesia. So I think constantly changing regulation, not making it in the beginning itself, thinking through it fast. Giving less time for implementation. I think those are probably some of the overall challenges of most of the emerging markets, which are there.
And do you think, is there an unspoken bias in how regulatory agencies treat local versus MNCs when it comes to approvals or processes?
I don't think approvals, etc., are an issue anymore.
Okay.
We have got approvals quite fast for most of the things. And ultimately, most companies, even when they are multinational, they are based here, they are localized here. I don't think that is the problem. So when the regulation challenges happen, they happen for everyone. So whether you are local or global, you are in it, together. Maybe the local companies have much more better connects, because they've been here for long. They have one person handling it versus, in general, for a Western company or an outside company, people change, people move out. Maybe that could be, the reason where they can get things faster when there is a problem. But when there's no problem, I don't think that, at least I haven't seen that. So we have, in the experience I have, that's never an issue. We've got approvals very fast. We've got approvals sometimes delayed also. But that's dependent on the process and maybe some mistake we only have done, or, something has been missed by someone leading to that.
When it comes to Indonesia, e-commerce plays a very important role. And we talked about this a little bit in the past. So we've got Tokopedia and then other giants like Lazada, Shopee, or TikTok Shop. But many CPG giants are still struggling to crack the e-commerce code in Indonesia. What's your take on it? Because Warung or Tokos, they still play a big part when it comes to contribution to the business.
I think that is, in my understanding, I think that is exactly the opposite, to be honest. I think from e-commerce standpoint, it is the global companies which have actually led the way in terms of showing it's an innovative channel, right? It's a new thing. How, for example, again, this is me being in the environment of Indonesia and therefore knowing things. It might not be correct. L'Oreal has done so many things to, during COVID times to, really explode e-com, things which were very innovative, which were, you would wonder, okay, very nicely done or, very well thought about. Same with maybe Reckitt, etc. also. So I would think that the global companies have actually led the way in terms of, working with the e-com giants, setting up the right processes, learning from, bringing out the learnings from Amazon, etc.
Okay.
Because the global companies have to connect, you work there, including China, and you can get some of those learnings, from those countries back here faster. So I would say exactly the opposite, actually, that, the share of business of, I think, global companies is probably a little bit higher than local companies in the e-commerce space.
Okay.
For the global companies, e-com also serves a distribution purpose. In the sense that someone based in Kalimantan, Sulampua, whatever, they can still access these products, even though the company's regular distribution channels might not be present. That's how I would put it. Seeing it from the periphery, not just doing it when I was working with J&J,
And speaking of global trends, sustainability is another big one. But it seems like it doesn't quite resonate the same way here in Indonesia. Do you think consumers here really care about eco-friendly products, or is that still more of a niche concern?
See, they do care. But I think that comes first, or affordability comes first. So sustainability is a plus one. So if you can give it at the same price as the other guy, but you're also giving it sustainable, then I like you, or I will, maybe purchase you or buy you. Not like is not the word, but then yes. But if you're giving it because of sustainability, you're giving it at a much higher price than what I can get it, then I applaud your effort, but I think price is more important.
And what about the workforce? What's that one thing about the Indonesian workforce or the talent pool that surprised you? So it could be in a good way or a challenging way.
See, I think one of the most surprising part was that people are very hardworking here. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't feel that because when we come from outside, we have worked in regional environments where typically you will not see Indonesian people. You will see Singaporeans, you will see Malaysians, you will see Indians, you will see Filipinos, but you will rarely see, Indonesians. And then you come to the country and then you realize, hey, people are very hardworking, people are very honest, they really put in a lot of effort. Then why is that happening? Why are they not outside? So that's probably, sometimes impressions get created in your mind that when you're coming from outside, you've not seen them before. So for me, it was a big revelation that they do put in a lot of effort. They are, very good in terms of doing things well.
Is there anything about doing business in Indonesia that no MBA class could have ever prepared you for?
I think you have to be ready for the constant challenges which come your way. Yeah, things are not smooth, and that's because it's a large country. It's got thousands of islands. Your stocks go from one place to another. It can take 3-4 days before from one point to another point. It's going via truck, via ferry, via again truck, and then via whatever to reach its final destination. So it's overall very complex. Yeah. So logistics of working, different cultures, different this, and things happen. There are fires to fight, and the number of fires you fight here probably are a lot more than anywhere else, and that's something you probably are unprepared for. That if you think things will work smoothly, they're not going to. So you have to be prepared that today morning I will go. There'll be 5 crises which will be there, which I have to handle and make sure that how I do things. So I think those are some of the things which I think which you are not generally prepared for, and it's not smooth running. There are a lot of road bumps along the way, and you get used to it, and you say, okay, fine, this is how it is, and you learn to navigate those over a period of time.
Totally. Indonesia is a very dynamic market. So tell us, what keeps you up at night as the leader of a global brand in such a competitive and ever-changing market?
Yeah, I think, what as a country, maybe the last 2 years and maybe the next 2 or 3 might still be tough, yeah, from a standpoint
Okay.
of growth for the larger companies, and that's because I think more because of the global environment. There is a lot of spare capacity in China, so a lot of dumping of products is happening. Some of those companies are coming, and because they have spare capacity, they're able to sell at a very low cost. So I think those are some of the things which, and people here, as I said, are they get convinced very relatively easily. And so if you put a few influencers, they will as I read in one of, I don't know where that data was, that in people get influenced. The level of influence is plus 23 points higher than the global average. So that's
Wow.
how it is. And it's quite significant, right? So if an influencer is saying, they will not question it too much, whereas we will, okay, what is the person saying, and is
Yeah.
there something in it, etc. So that part of higher capacity in other country who's wanting to expand with low cheap brands and being easily able to influence. I think that combination sometimes becomes a difficult one, or a difficult one for the other side, for the competitor, because it'll take 1 or 2 years before you realize, okay, hey, this is not what was really good as a product, right? So, but by that time you have lost a little bit. So on this side, then the global company has to hold the course, and
Hmm.
things will turn around, and the higher quality brand, and it generally shines through. And I think that's the part which is a challenging one over the course of the
Okay.
next maybe 24, 36 months too, for the country.
And do you think Indonesia is misunderstood globally when it comes to business potential?
Yeah, I think it is, in the sense that there is long-term potential here for sure, but people are wanting now. I don't think that now is still there. It will take a few years, but if you're not there now and not building those roots, then when that growth will come, it will be very difficult for you to, get back in. You see the example of India, and I will not name companies, but you can, see that some people who had exited, let's say 2014, 2015, knowing it's a very tough market, this, that, now are wanting to come back again in the country. And then you wonder, hey, what about the person who had stayed
Hmm.
on and then grown shares and grown roots? You will spend that
Yeah.
much more money to now make an entry back and still not be
Hmm.
successful as. So I think that is the misunderstanding, that the potential is now, and
Yeah.
is equal to the population which people see, but there's more to the population. And I think that potential does exist when the per capita start rising a little bit more. And
Yeah.
there's no doubt that eventually population will shine through. It is a long term. That's not an untruth. There are 270 million people here, but
Yeah.
um, I think over a period of time is when country becomes a little bit more richer. Then you
Hmm.
see how big the businesses will be here.
And finally, looking back at your career journey from India to Indonesia and everywhere in between, what's been the most rewarding part of working in such a dynamic, ever changing global environment?
Yeah, I think it's meeting people, it's experiences which you get, different cultures, business models which you see. So I think those
Hmm.
are that's what life is. So you get all those experiences across so many different cultures, countries, people. I think that's probably been the most rewarding part.
Thank you so much for joining me in Doing Dreaming, Sawan. It's been an awesome, candid chat with you. Really appreciate you sharing your time and perspective. I mean, this was a fun one and a real reminder of how rich global experiences can be. Thank you once again. And that's a wrap for this episode of Durian Dreaming. I hope today's discussion sparked some new ideas for you. Don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts, and stay tuned for more exciting stories. Until next time, keep dreaming big.